Now, to discuss why an elected president, after more than 800 days in office, is still defending his legitimacy to serve, I'm joined in the studio by Tom Switzer. He's from the US Studies Centre at the University of Sydney. And Tom Switzer, why do you think that the White House has calculated that now is the time for the president to have to release his full birth certificate?
Well, there are two schools of thought. One school of thought is a very cynical one, and that is that President Obama could get a lot of mileage out of this in his budget negotiations with the Republicans on Capitol Hill. And by portraying a lot of the Republicans as goofballs and conspiracy theorists, he has the upper hand. But I tend to agree with the other school of thought, which is essentially that there is a lot of serious business to be conducted in the United States right now. And the problem with the so-called birther issue is that it attracted a lot of attention away from issues like the debt, the deficits, and of course the major war in Afghanistan.
Now, I sort of took it as President Obama trying to clear the decks as he really gets his re-election campaign underway. But is it the case that some people in the United States are never going to be convinced, no matter what he does? They're simply not going to believe this?
Look, there is some truth to that. If you look at all the available public opinion polling evidence, the New York Times had a poll just the other day showing that more than 40% of Republicans do not believe, only 40% of Republicans believe that President Obama was born in the United States. Now, Republicans come in all shapes and sizes, but to think that there is a significant minority of Republicans who don't believe that he was born in the United States, that is a problem. Having said that, though, the announcement overnight may well quell those doubts, although you still will have that fringe conspiracy there.
Now, of course, Donald Trump has been crowing that he's forced the president's hand. He's also sort of toying with this idea of running for president himself. Is he a serious contender?
Look, I went on a similar show on the ABC 24 about 10 days ago, and I said he wasn't serious. I still don't think he is a serious candidate, but I do think he will run. I think all the evidence is quite clear. He's been calling up prominent Pulitzer Prize-winning columnists such as Charles Krauthammer of the Washington Post and trying to be lovey-dovey up to these guys. You don't be lovey-dovey up to prominent columnists who bag you day in and day out unless you're serious about running for president. So I think he will run. I doubt very much, though, he will win the base of the party, and that's what you need to do in a Republican primary. You need to win the Conservative base. I doubt very much he will do that. The problem then comes is what happens if he fails to win the Republican nomination. Will he run as an independent? And he could do very much to the Republican candidate what Ross Perot did in 1992 against George H.W. Bush, which was essentially splinter the Conservative vote, which would mean a re-election for President Obama.
Because the Republican establishment, people like Karl Rove, for example, have described Donald Trump as a joke candidate, but that really indicates, doesn't it, that the Republican Party is struggling to find somebody else as an alternative to people like Donald Trump or indeed Sarah Palin, who hasn't ruled out running.
Well, look, bear in mind we're only in April of 2011. In April of 1991, no one really knew who Bill Clinton was, and he went on to become a very successful Democratic candidate, in fact, two-term president. So a lot can happen during the course of the next 6 months. I don't take too seriously who's running for president at this stage. I think we'll have a clearer idea on the Republican front after the northern summer. That's when you'll see people like Mitch Daniels, the governor of Indiana, declare his hand. He's someone who can't be dismissed as unserious. He's very sound and sharp and articulate. Whether he's got the red meat credentials to appeal to the base is another matter, but there are a lot of other potential Republican candidates who have not declared their hand yet, and I think that one of the reasons why Obama's getting this attention is, quite frankly, he's saying a lot of outrageous things. I mean, let's not forget, thanks to Donald Trump, a fringe conspiracy has been heart and centre of American politics for the last month.
I know, for a president to have to stand there and say, you know, enough of this sideshow and the carnival barkets. I mean, it's not often that you hear a president address such loony ideas.
And to be fair, a lot of the Republican leaders on Capitol Hill have had no time for this birther claim. It really is a fringe issue, but hopefully now it's all dead and buried, and the President and the Republican leadership in the Congress can focus on the more important issues that lie in the United States at the moment.
One of the things that Barack Obama has also done is he's had a bit of a reshuffle of his national security leadership, announced that General David Petraeus, currently in charge of the war in Afghanistan, will be the new CIA boss, shuffling the CIA boss, Leon Panetta, across to the Secretary of Defence. What do you make of those changes?
Well, I was surprised by Petraeus because although his term is due to finish in Afghanistan at the end of the year, there was a lot of talk among some Republicans and Conservatives that he could be a Republican presidential candidate, a bit like Dwight Eisenhower in 1952. So
Barack Obama just removed him from that equation.
Well, you could say that.
Job.
Indeed, if indeed Petraeus does take the job and he's confirmed by the Senate, then he's out of the race, so that's right. But look, there are all sorts of problems in Afghanistan, and one of the crucial changes we made about who's the ambassador. Now, there's also a lot of talk that Eikenberry, who's been there for the last couple of years, he will be replaced by Ryan Crocker, who, of course, was a very successful ambassador in Iraq. Iraq and presided over the surge.
Teamed up with David Petraeus.
Indeed, absolutely. Yeah. I think the circumstances are a lot different, but that's clearly the model there for the White House, that what the Crocker-Petraeus relationship did in Iraq with the surge 3 or 4 years ago can work in Afghanistan
Because
today.
I was reading that the person that they're considering to put in charge of the war in Afghanistan, the person whose name has just escaped me, is
John Allen.
Yes, is a guy who's actually never served in Afghanistan before.
Yeah.
And in fact, the next potential chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff to replace Admiral Mike Mullen might be a Marine commandant who's never served there before.
Well, look, this is the problem. It is indeed, and I think this is just a reminder about how stretched the United States is. I mean, when President Obama was inaugurated 2.5 years ago, there were only about 55 odd thousand troops, US troops in Afghanistan. Now there is 110,000 troops. The Americans are spending $2 billion a day in Afghanistan, and meanwhile, more and more Republicans are starting to raise doubts on Capitol Hill about the plausibility of staying there for much beyond 2014. So the President has a lot on his plate at the moment, and it's not altogether clear that the administration has worked out an exit strategy.
Okay. All right, Tom Switzer, thank you very much for joining me.
Thanks, Kim.